folks, grab a seat and pour your drink neat as Whiskers and Whiskeys presents Tales of the Trophies, the SEC's greatest rivalry. It's Mike. I'm back with EJ. How's it going, Bob? Thanks for finding some suckers to fill in for me last week.
Yes, every time I always try to do the intro there, it just my voice isn't raspy enough. I start there and then I'm like, I saw then I'm hearing like Myron Cope, in my head here.
It takes practice.
Sure, yes. Yeah, it was great to see some familiar faces last week. Obviously good to have you back. I got a bit of a sore throat, so if I sound goofy, just excuse me, please. But sick baby means sick parents. So
I'm dying a little bit over here too from the self-inflicted wounds. But yeah,
I heard. I heard when.
Did you?
Yeah. So for our listeners here, Mike had his. I guess you haven't really even talked about it on the pod yet, so I don't want to steal your thunder here.
No, yeah, we had a baby shower this past weekend. Yeah.
Yay.
Expecting, as is Whiskers and Whiskey's tradition, I am now expecting a child at the end of November.
Yeah.
EJ and Joe took care of that last year, so now it's my turn, and we'll see. You guys got time still to turn one around. Either you or Joe turn another one around for next fall.
But we so for the listeners, we went over to Mike's house. He lives, I don't know, about 40 minutes away, and my wife had a couple of at that shower there were a couple of friends that she hasn't seen in a while, that are also friends with Mike's wife. So we came home, and I put the baby to bed and she came back. But that was by the time she got back, it was right at the end of that Alabama Tennessee game. So I was asking her how Mike was the rest of the night. And
I was shocked to see her. I was like, oh my gosh, Kelly. And that, props to you, man, for husband of the year move right there. Just be like, hey, babe, just go back and hang out with your friends. I got the baby, I got the dog. Don't worry about it.
Sure.
Very noble of you.
We only had 1 hour left of waking hour left, so it wasn't too much of a lift for me. But I was like, yeah, you might as well go back. Has some friends in town that aren't in town very often. So
yeah, I turned off football after the game, and I watched the Lord of the Rings, Two Towers.
She said she played video games and
Lord of the Rings. I watched Lord of the Rings. Yeah, I was like, I need to know something where I'm going to be assured with a good ending. So need a little comfort food. I couldn't stand any more football.
Yeah.
So yeah, I watched that. Then I watched Return of the King extended edition. So I was up till 2 a.m. Just I was fast forwarding through all the Frodo shit. The Frodo doesn't really do it for me, but the other stuff, So yeah. We can talk about that game. If you were gonna ask, I can't talk about it. I mean,
I didn't know if it was still a sore subject here.
Good for you, as a program to, or not even a program that, you get a win, you beat Alabama, you can beat me 16 times in a row, but if you think you're going to beat me 17 times in a row, you're crazy. The line is drawn here and no further. Tear down the goalpost, throw it in the river.
Listen, they're 0 for Saban, so
steal grass and steal grass from the field, sell it on eBay. If Alabama beats Tennessee, that's just a Saturday. Tennessee does it, and I mean, there's a chance these teams meet again, right? I don't think they will.
No, I
think there's a chance.
I think because Georgia's kind of slept walk lately, I think people are forgetting how good they are. And I think they'll get a rude awakening once they finally play someone and have to get up for it. I mean, it would be a different story if Georgia was going to Knoxville, but them having to go to Athens is probably bad news.
So it's just, I mean, for so much to happen in that game for Tennessee to win that game. I mean, Alabama made plenty of mistakes. Secondary was terrible. Saban was fired up about that. Secondary was just bad. And then, the guy on punt coverage just trying to be the hero and pick up the punt after Kool-Aid waved it off is insane. But the officiating. I can't not talk about it because like that from what I'd seen on Twitter, I haven't gone back and validated it. Apparently that was the same crew that the Bo Nix spike where he like fumbled it and then spiked it. Remember that?
No.
It was the end of the game. He went to clock the ball.
Yeah.
And he like fumbled the snap and just like spiked. It was a fumble, but
Okay.
they screwed that up. I mean, they were so atrocious, and like to not call the targeting is insane. But then the thing that really got me was that interception at the end where they threw a flag and said it was pass interference. They threw the flag for a block in the back on the return. Then they got together and were like, you know what? Actually, that should have been pass interference. There was no flag. And you can't do that. It's not like you throw a flag and everyone gets together. It's like, hey, what else did you see? Was there holding out there? Like that, you cannot do that.
I mean,
And
you
that,
can't do that. You can't have meetings during lunch. Like,
you can't
it's
skip
not allowed.
lunch. It just, I mean, there's so much that happened that allowed Tennessee to win that game. If these two teams played again, it's just, I mean,
That's just how it goes, though, man. I will say, yes, you're right, but that's just when you look at a lot of these upsets, like that's just what happens. I would not to the same extent because I'm going to be honest with you. I actually didn't catch the end of the game only because Michigan State actually looked like a competitive team, and I shamefully couldn't turn away from that. I did sprinkle a little money line though at halftime, which made me really happy. As for Michigan State money line. But yeah, I kept going back and forth. And by the time I got it back to Tennessee, they were rushing the field, so I had to go back on the internet to figure out what exactly happened. It was like every time I change it over, it would be commercial, and I was like, God damn it! Like I think I saw Young's third down incompletion, which led to, I guess, was the 50-yarder that he missed. So it was like every time I turned it back on, I kept missing something. So
it was just, I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, I don't think this is the best team that we've had. You know,
you're rebuilding. This is what rebuilding looks like.
Yeah.
Which is
really
disgusting.
This is what rebuilding looks like because, you know, there's no wide receiver that's like, I read another stat that like, there's at this point in the season, there's like one receiver with over 300 yards of passing and like or receiving. And like last year we had 2 over 400 and 1 over 500. Year before that, you had like 3 over 500. But so it's just, I mean,
it's not a typical Alabama team. I will say the same thing could probably be said about Texas, right? If Ewers doesn't die and Hand doesn't have one leg, like Texas probably went or Card. What's his first Hudson Card? I mean Alabama probably doesn't get away with that one. But I feel like it's one of those years, right? I feel like Bama's going to be that potentially 3-loss like rebuild and going to murder someone in their bowl game, like at worst, right? Obviously, they have plenty of time to get back to the SEC championship game, and you know they're going to have their shot. But yeah, I mean, I feel like this is definitely not an Alabama team of the past, but they're still better than the majority of other teams. So.
I think you're going to see there's a real chance that we have, like, you know, 11-1 Alabama SEC champion, 11-1 Georgia SEC runner-up. Their only loss to Alabama. 11-1 Tennessee. Their only losses to Georgia, and then 11-1 Ole Miss, and their only loss is to Georgia, and then or to Alabama, and then that it's like try that on for size in the CFP, you know, like that's something that is could happen. So
and then you have to couple in like the Pac-12 is going to be messy, potentially the Big 12. Like I would guess this stuff is probably going to play its way out. It usually does, but like there's a lot of potential for a lot of chaos because then you're looking down the pipe of like, okay, what happens if Ohio State, Michigan, the loser of that game is going to be one loss and probably, I mean, I guess it depends. If it's Michigan, they might, and they lose, they might really kill them over that non-conference. But if you're looking at Ohio State, who played Notre Dame and their one loss, like that's going to be hard to discredit as well. Like I think there's going to be potentially a lot of issues. And this is probably the best year. I mean, again, as of now, people are sleeping on Georgia. I have to see them play some more before I just decide that it's a toss up. But like, this is one of those rare years where it's like a 12-team playoff might have actually been like
Oh
a lot
yeah,
of fun,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
It could have actually had some different results than a
Yeah, there's
typical
some
year.
parity. There's some
Yeah.
parity out there.
But again, I feel like I have to watch Georgia not sleepwalk through an opponent to really decide whether or not they're just going to destroy whoever they see. But
Indeed.
I guess we'll see. Like I said, let's see here. Yeah, I don't know. Sorry, I was just trying to pull up
An SEC opponent,
schedules
right?
here.
Oregon doesn't count.
Right. So you have like, yeah. So it's just like they need to play Tennessee. Like I need to see them play. I mean, I don't know if they have another crossover that's worth anything, but it's like, okay, so Ole Miss has to.
Georgia's in their conference, or Tennessee's in the East with Georgia.
Right, but they already beat Kentucky. Florida's terrible. So it's really just Tennessee for the East. It's like, do they have another West crossover that could be potentially troublesome for them? I don't know. But it's
Let's
like,
take a
okay.
look.
Yeah, it's like, so Ole Miss still has to go to LSU, which that's this weekend, and they're dogs. I don't know. I feel like Ole Miss is going to drop another one, including Bama.
Georgia plays Florida, Tennessee, Mississippi State, Kentucky. So they do have a tough
Mississippi
run down the
State
stretch.
in Stark Vegas.
It is in Stark Vegas, yeah.
Okay, so that's a potential. Oh no,
Ohio State has nothing. Just
no, until Michigan. Same with Michigan, right? Like both of them just have
Yeah.
each other, which kind of is tough for them because I don't think I don't think Ohio State's gonna have too much trouble, even though it's in Happy Valley and it'll probably be a whiteout. I don't know that they'll have too much trouble there. Maybe a little bit because it's on the road, but
Clemson doesn't really have anything left. See, I mean,
oh, that's right.
So
You
like I
didn't think
said,
about Clemson.
they don't have anything though. I mean, their next they play Syracuse.
That's a ranked Syracuse, undefeated. Put some
Yeah.
respect on that name.
Whatever. Then they play Notre Dame, Louisville, Miami, and South Carolina.
Yeah.
I mean, like, yeah, there's nothing here that's like crazy to me. So
No. It'll be interesting. I think you're right. I think it could be chaotic, and there's a decent chance. I mean, if you got, say, like a one-loss USC or one-loss Oregon, Utah's probably out of it with 2, but then you have like an undefeated UCLA still. I mean, there's enough talent there, and then you look at the Big 12. You have Oklahoma State only has the one loss, and you still have TCU's undefeated. It's like you have a couple of teams there. I don't know. I think Kansas State might be out of it with 2 losses, but you have I don't know. You have enough ranked teams in every conference beside like the ACC to catapult a one-loss team into.
Depending how crazy things get too, like Texas with Quinn Ewers is a lot different team than Texas with Hudson Card. So,
right.
I know they lost to Texas Tech, but then, like, let's say they won that game, then their only losses to, or let's say you just discount it, but like you didn't have Quinn Ewers, and then your losses to Bama, which they should have won that game had Quinn Ewers played the whole game. So
I think I'm just going to tell you this week there Oklahoma State's a home dog against them, and I think I might be liking that a lot.
We'll see. Let's see what happens.
They barely beat the Cyclones at home. I know you got the hat on.
We talked about that. We said that's a letdown game. That is a letdown game.
But I think going to Okie State, like Okie State's really, really good with NFL talent, and Spencer Sanders hasn't, pooped his pants yet. So maybe that's the game he poops his pants.
If they beat the shit out of Oklahoma State, then
then that's staying something on the road. I'm probably going to take that home dog, but we'll get to that. All right. So what are we drinking today? We are drinking the Magnolia Maiden. And this is because we're talking about the Magnolia Bowl here. We got LSU, Ole Miss. Honestly, I picked this cocktail because of the name, and it is very simple. I am going to be honest with you. I really thought it was going to taste like total garbage, and it doesn't. Which was pleasant. Sorry, spoiler alert. Because of my sore throat, I've been sipping on it a little bit here.
Oh, I have to. I need to gear up to talk about third Saturday in October. So
we have Magnolia Maiden. So that is an ounce and a half of bourbon, an ounce and a half of Grand Marnier, and then a splash of simple syrup and a splash of soda,
I like the
soda
website that
water.
you sent me. Uses. I didn't even know that there was another company that makes a Grand Marnier equivalent, and it's referred to as Mandarin Napoleon.
Yeah, I mean, I will say of all the I like that website because it's pretty good with cocktails. I will say every other recipe calls it Grand Marnier. I don't know if that's something different. I'm gonna guess it's not. Like you said, it's probably just another like company's
Brand.
name of it. I mean,
Yeah.
excuse us if that, these mixologists out there that if we're way off and it's nothing near it, but every other recipe called for Grand Marnier, so that's what I got, and
Yeah.
it actually tastes lovely. But just so you guys are aware of, it's a full shot of Grand Marnier and a full shot of bourbon. So we'll see how this goes at the end.
Yeah. And shout out to Pub Dog. EJ and I had used to have a wonderful time at this place called Pub Dog, which is near where I used to live.
You need to
Great
record
little
up there.
bar. They had all these Grand Marnier bottles up on the ceiling. All the waitresses and bartenders would just get drunk ripping shots of Grand Marnier all through their shift. They served their beers in 2 little 8-ounce mugs.
Yep.
They had smash pizza where you take one personal size pizza and another personal size pizza. They have like a wide menu. And if they just would smash them together, make a little pizza sandwich. EJ and I love that place. Then it exploded. So it's reopened now, but there was a major gas leak and explosion in the plaza that was in. It has been rebuilt. It has reopened. But yeah, that was tough scenes for the folks at Pub Dog. Well, I think they're open now because then COVID happened.
I hope
Shortly.
so.
Yeah.
That was a lovely place, and we would be there way more often had you not moved. But
Well, I would we I was an hour and a half away before, but
that is
they're
true.
open. They're open.
We're gonna have to take a trip up there.
I wouldn't be sad about that.
No,
You
we'll
can
have to
order
figure it out.
online. I wonder if they'll deliver.
Deliver all the way down here.
Hey, we really love you, so
Maybe we can get them to sponsor us. I'd be all for that. Whiskers and Whiskeys, sponsored by Pub Dog.
actually, I mean that's a logical that works for me.
All right, pick them with the boys. I'm glad you put it. I was just going to ask you because I genuinely. So you sent me. I usually try to keep my like attachments and stuff to a minimum on my phone. So like gifts and stuff, I'll go back and delete. So when you sent me the lines, like who I knew you were picking Bulls, Bears, and Boilermakers, but the lines were connected to your pictures, and I deleted those without thinking about actually like
Oh,
yeah, so I was going to ask you, but I was like, I don't want to ask you sarcastically. I knew Cal lost outright, so I knew so that was bad news for you, but I didn't know
yeah.
what the Buffalo and Purdue lines were. But it looks like you filled them in here.
Yeah. The Buffalo Bulls are a good bet, man. They are pretty solid. And then yeah, I mean, you don't have to put in the lines, but yeah, I'll took the L on the Boilermakers, and then yeah, Cal
Yeah,
lost.
and we had Nathan with another 3-0, or not another, but a 3-0 week,
Well,
and
it
now
was a push on TCU the other week. So yeah,
yeah,
Nathan now officially has 9 wins and a tie. And I
yeah,
have 9 wins. And then Doyle caught me this week. So well, Doyle's at 8, so he's
yeah,
still one back, but I'm losing steam. I had my let's see, I went 1-2, 0-3, 1-2, 1-2 after a hot start, The
yeah.
first I started out of the gate 6-3, and now just not great.
It's
So I
tricky,
don't know.
man. We now we've really. I mean, I'm giving you zero help as far as like the 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 guest pickers beating us and getting some swag. I'm not helping. I got one win. The Utes unfortunately didn't cover, but obviously won that game. And I woke up and saw San Jose State lost, and it's probably because they were all afraid of Devonte Adams being there at the game, which I should have thought
I like
about.
that, man. I mean, I liked it too. So
Yeah. I mean, they were really San Jose State's a really good Mountain West team, and Fresno State has been terrible. Don't have the
dog shit.
quarterback,
Yeah.
and
Normally
yeah,
they do, the Carr brothers.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Well, and Hayner's been hurt, so I didn't
yeah.
think that was a big deal at all. But it wasn't. So I have an idea of what I'm going to do. I've kind of looked early at the spread. I think I'm just going to go for it because now I really have to. I mean, it shows you a couple of weeks of 2-1, 3-0 can really catapult you, but
Oh
I need to
yeah.
start hitting some of these
Oh
to
yeah.
get to these striking range before championship weekend before we
Yeah,
can get
Nathan's
some
been hot.
double
He's
bubbles.
not had one winless week. He went 1-2, 2-1, 1-2,
Yeah,
2-0-1, and then 3-0.
yeah,
And then Doyle is well, last week he was winless.
yeah.
Like all of us except Nathan. But yeah. Yeah,
Yeah, we'll
man.
see. It's one of those things. I don't know. I told you before we did this, I'm terrible at pick'em. I used to be in leagues, but I do enjoy it, and I like doing some research about it. I like thinking it over. I mean, again, it's like a story. I always end up liking. Like I liked Kentucky and didn't pull the trigger on it. You know,
I don't think I had any. I mean, of all the bets that I really loved, I haven't.
it's
I ain't
usually the
go
ones I
back and
really love that don't cover, right? Like the Utes. It was a great game. I had a bad feeling just from the get go. I'm glad they came back, and I'm glad they end up winning that game because I'm sick of hearing about USC. But I didn't like as that game was ebbing and flowing. I thought getting over 3.5 was probably not going to happen once that game started. It's one of those things where you kind of know. It's like, did I think the Utes could win? Yes, but like, did I think they would cover by more than 3? I was like, as that game went on, I was like, this isn't going to work out for me. But
I'm struggling. The bets I really like have just been not doing. The bets that I'm okay with have been okay. The bets I really like have just been dog shit.
yeah, I know that Illini one was my last one I sent to you too, and that was the one that won. That one won
Well,
pretty
I won
easily.
on that one too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Boy. Yeah, I gotta go back and take. I gotta just head back to the lab. Last week was a big L. So
I was gonna say like, and I don't know if I was telling you this, but like my NFL betting's actually been pretty good. I just cashed in a 4-leg teaser. It wasn't like I teased it well over, not well over, but to the magic number. So it was only like a I don't know plus 200 4-leg teaser, but like I put 30-40 bucks down and got a nice little
yeah,
return on it. But
winning's winning.
yeah, Steelers were one of those. So I didn't need them to win it, but
Oh, I bet Steelers money line yesterday. Told you I
right,
was
you
getting.
told
Yeah.
well, yeah. You just gonna is that
Do
the
it the
yeah
next 2 weeks as well for sure. So
yeah yeah it was yeah you could just tell right from the get go. Like you kind of just can tell the Bucks just aren't right.
well, I mean, it's Tom Brady owns Pittsburgh, so I really
Right.
didn't I really didn't have I was nervous pretty much the whole time. Mitch Trubisky keeps Tom Brady from getting on the field and come back for a game-winning drive. That's file that under things you didn't expect to see this weekend. So
Yeah, and then you wait till next week when he does the little 2-yard outs the entire game again.
God, yeah.
Rinse and
Well, I
repeat.
mean, everyone's like, sucking him off, and it's like his best play was a blown coverage. The middle linebacker was trying to call a timeout, didn't even wasn't even in the play. So, anyways,
All right, why don't we get to this rivalry here
let's do it.
today?
Let's
It's
do
it's
it.
it's a lovely one. I enjoyed this one. I think you're going to enjoy this one too. Um, so, like I said, we're talking about the Magnolia Bowl that is played between LSU and Ole Miss.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know why it's called the Magnolia Bowl?
I don't know. Something. I mean, it's a thing down there. Magnolias, Sweet Magnolias was a movie. I don't know the exact reason. No.
Because the magnolia flower is the state flower for both Louisiana and
Oh,
Mississippi.
Louisiana. Okay, there you go.
There you go. All right. So, what are your guesses to what this trophy looks like?
Let me see. Let me see what Magnolia looks like. I think I have an idea. Come on, just show me a magnolia. Okay, yeah, it's the big white pink flower. Maybe that on like a big silver bowl. No, never mind. I know what it is. It's a picture. It's a bronze statue of Chip and Joanna Gaines. That's what it is.
That's
With
what it is.
shiplap. The base is made of shiplap, and then it's a bronze Chip and Joe on
Okay.
top of a base of shiplap. That's
Yeah.
what it is.
Do you know that they're uppering a Castle now on HBO Max?
I did. Yeah.
I
I
got
want to
the
watch that. I
ad
want to
today.
watch that. Yeah. I'm definitely that's going on. That's going in the queue. So
Okay, Chip and Joe. I will say there's a decent chance that there's probably a Baylor Chip and Joe trophy, probably because
maybe,
they're based
yeah.
out of Waco and that's where Baylor's at. But okay, so that's a great guess. We'll see if you're right. Why don't we get to, so this is I was actually surprised. I had to go back and check. Feel like I do so many of these episodes and research, like not, I don't always do the research the week of. I usually do it ahead of time, so I kind of forget sometimes which teams we've already done trophies for and which one we haven't. We haven't done Mississippi
First
State
time for
or
both of them.
LSU. Yeah,
Or Ole Miss
so
or LSU, right?
sorry, Mississippi
Yeah.
State, Ole Miss or LSU. So we haven't done one for either yet. So because of that, we're gonna do our segment either or, because we haven't talked about either of these states yet.
Let's do it.
Like so this. Number one, catfish or crawfish?
Catfish.
Not a crawdaddy.
Not a crawdad guy. Catfish all day, man. Cajun catfish sandwich is lights out. Cajun catfish po' boy. That's lights out delicious. Are you a crawdad guy?
No, never had it. Don't really. Although I will say I did see I don't even remember what the Netflix show was. It was like street foods, but they talked about, like, it was only like 5 or 6 cities, and it was like a combination of lobbying for, not lobbying, but like just like promoting the importance of street food, and then also giving following around a couple of restaurants or street food companies in each of the locations. So one of them was,
that's a cause I can get down for.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. It was like 6 episodes. I wish it would have been more. But one of the episodes was New Orleans, and so one of the things they highlighted obviously was crawfish boils, and it looks like it would be cool. I don't know. It's kind of weird to think about, like, sucking out the brains of the crawfish and stuff.
I mean,
like,
I've had it. It just doesn't do anything for
no,
me,
yeah,
yeah.
Yeah, I haven't tried it. I feel like I need to at least try it once before.
Didn't we
I
have
completely...
some in New Orleans?
I surely didn't. No, I don't think, unless you guys did it when I was dead in that afternoon. But
maybe.
I didn't do it.
Oh yeah, you went back, right?
Yeah, after the tour, because I was dying.
And then we went out.
Yeah,
yeah. So I think I did. I think I did have crawfish then, unless I'm misremembering. But I definitely remember like sitting, and it was like, yeah. Anyways, but yeah, I think I did. I don't know. I don't know if I did there or not, but
okay.
I definitely have had it. Like I said, it was just a small appetizer.
Yeah. Oh, okay. I see.
Yeah.
You guys didn't go to an actual place with like a huge bag of them or anything like that.
I mean, no, I definitely, again, I might be like, Mandela affecting myself that was in New Orleans, but like I've definitely had them. I definitely remember it being like a plate of them,
okay.
So like appetizer.
All right. Number 2 then, jazz or blues?
Blues.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I think I like jazz.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, I like them both. Man. I like them both, but if I had to choose, I don't know. I kind of like the upbeatness of jazz at times. Blues can be a little somber.
I love Black Keys.
Yeah.
I love Alabama Shakes. I love Ray Clark Jr. I'm a big, I don't listen to them as much as like that's not like my go-to, I guess, for music, but like, yeah, man. I mean, anytime that stuff comes on, that like rock bluesy rock, whatever, like I get down with that. So
okay. Number 3, hot tamales or Cajun, like just Cajun food?
That's like, I mean, that's tough. That's like, it's like one dish versus a whole like genre of food.
Okay. Give me an answer. And if you didn't know, which I didn't know, Mississippi is known for hot tamales. So there you go. Well, fun fact.
Oh, really?
Yep.
I didn't know that. I mean, I'm thinking specifically of tamales. Like when I think of like there is Cajun food that I like quite a bit, but like comparing it like specifically to probably tamales.
Gumbo, then. Give me gumbo.
Oh, tamales
Okay.
over gumbo or jambalaya. Yeah, all
Okay.
day, every day. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
I don't know. I love me a good gumbo or jambalaya. I mean, I
It's
like
good.
tamales too.
Yeah, they come in. It's a little wrap. It's a little blanket. How
Yeah,
often does food come with a blanket?
I know. All right, BB King or Louis Armstrong?
Louis Armstrong.
I mean,
It's
over the
close.
rainbow, right? You know, it's
Yeah,
hard to beat.
yeah. I mean that's close.
Okay. Faith Hill or Reese Witherspoon?
Man.
I know. This one's a real
Oh,
tough one. I'll
probably
say
Reese.
let's say both ladies, well into their 40s, might be 50, both
Still
look
crushing it.
fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably Reese. I mean,
Okay.
yeah. I was a big Legally Blonde fan back in the day. So
Yeah,
still
I
am.
will say like I'm just not much of a country music person, so that
Yeah.
means like haven't really paid it too close of attention to Faith Hill. But yeah, I mean, I don't think you can go wrong with either. All right, last one. Biscuits or beignets?
Oh, biscuits. They're more versatile. They can be sweet, they can be savory. So I'm going biscuits.
I am of all the breakfast pastry, and maybe it's just because, I am well north of the Mason Dixon line 99% of the time.
Mm-hmm.
Biscuits can go so wrong for me that I've just
That's true.
never like I'm
Yeah.
more of like a bagel breakfast guy or any other thing. But I know like if you get a good biscuit, like I get a biscuits and gravy every once in a while.
Yeah.
But maybe it's just because we're the north, like we don't get
Yeah.
good biscuits. So I would go beignets because those
And
are
well, if people up
lovely.
here were making beignets, like that's the thing.
They'd
It's
probably
like
be crappy
there's
too,
yeah,
right?
there's more, but you're absolutely right. Biscuits have more latitude, but I think a biscuit it's prime. Like even like I mean even those fucking Cherry Bay biscuits from Red Lobster lights out, like but no, like a good biscuit, like a nice flaky warm biscuit from the oven. And like I said, it can be savory, it can be sweet. There's so much versatility with the biscuit, and there's something about that flaky crunchiness, like and just when you break it, if like the flour just kind of like pops off with it, like the flour is put on. Oh yeah, just biscuits.
I just feel like I need a moisture to it, whether and it depends on what
Mm-hmm.
you're trying to do with the
Mm-hmm.
biscuit. But
Heyo,
because of the because
moisture.
of
Yeah.
that like dryness, that inherent dryness, I don't know. Beignets, you're right, are definitely sweet. That's just what they are. But I
Mm-hmm.
think they
Mm-hmm.
are such a lovely sweet treat. Like
Yeah.
they do
Yeah.
that so well
Yeah.
that I don't know. It's maybe just because I have alternatives with biscuits.
Yeah, you're absolutely right too, though, that about the range, right? Like I've run into, I've eaten way more biscuits than I have beignets, but
Yeah,
I'm way more likely to run into a crappy biscuit than a crappy beignet. But I feel like
yeah,
if you're making beignets, you you're on point with that.
right, yeah,
Like if you're gonna do that, you're gonna show some respect
right,
to
right,
it. So
exactly. No. Okay. Yeah, no, I agree with you. Now that makes me want some pastries right now.
yeah,
Go for
dude,
some carbs.
I can't. Well, I've had so many carbs. Oh my gosh.
I was gonna say, how much food do you guys have left?
So much. You guys didn't do a good job. There's so much food.
I almost asked Kelly to bring some back with her, but I was just so tired I forgot to ask her
Oh,
by the
I
time
wish you would
I
have,
was in
dude.
bed.
There was just so much. I mean,
Well,
I'm just gonna be eating cold cuts. I don't get me wrong, cold cuts and cheese are like my livelihood, but like,
you can bring some over this weekend when we have a Whiskers and Whiskeys special presentation here. We won't get into it a
ooh,
little bit, but we got a special presentation for you
little
guys.
teaser, little sizzle for that.
Yes. So you can bring some of that food over. Then I'll try and help out. I'll help a brother out. All right. So why don't we get back to this rivalry then? So a little bit about the history of it. The first matchup was in 1894 between these two schools, and Ole Miss won that 26-6. But overall, LSU leads the series 64 wins to 41 losses and 4 ties.
Okay.
And recently, LSU had a 5-game winning streak broken last year. So they were on the most recent streak that was officially broken last year, amongst the turmoil with that program. But now they are a family. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, so the Tigers and the Rebels first met in 1894 and have been regular opponents in the SEC, meeting annually without interruption since 1945. And the rivalry was at its height during the 50s and 60s when both teams were highly ranked, during which both teams actually claimed a national championship.
Wow.
But the rivalry died down, basically from the 70s to the 90s, mainly because Ole Miss sucked.
Yeah, well,
That pretty much just sums it up. Ole Miss was terrible, so this rivalry
call
kind
it
of died.
is. Yeah.
But then, and also this kind of, and it's probably a direct correlation to that, was in 92 when the SEC split into different divisions, into the 2 divisions. LSU got more rivals. So notably Alabama, Arkansas, Auburn, Florida. They became bigger rivals when that split happened. And again, because Ole Miss just wasn't very good at the time.
Right. Right.
But I will say, according to a couple of things that I read, it still seems to be, even though it doesn't attract maybe the national attention in recent years, it still seems to be pretty passionate between the two fan spaces.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, all those schools in the West, it's like you really don't have like you don't have a lot of like cross hatred in pro football. Like obviously you have like New Orleans to cheer for, but there's just not a lot of like cross like like if me and Cleveland, someone from Cleveland, or just me and from someone from Ohio has something to argue about, it can be a lot of it. Well, if I were a Penn State guy or, like I would have plenty to argue about. Like
Sure.
I could also argue about Steelers and Browns or Bengals or, right.
Right.
But like, you don't, down there, it's like, okay, well, we both like New Orleans. So,
Or it's like Dolphins and then Falcons. Like there's no arguments there, right? Like,
yeah, right. Yeah. Yeah.
It's
You can
just SEC football.
Yeah. Get all the hate you need there.
Right. Yeah. So in 2008, the student bodies of both schools elected to christen the yearly contest the Magnolia Bowl. So it was in 2008 is when it's got its name. Wow. And in that game, Ole Miss defeated LSU 31-13. And that was the first time the trophy was introduced.
Okay.
We will get to that a little bit later, but yes. So this rivalry has been nonstop from 45, but it didn't get its current name and trophy until 2008.
Okay.
So let me just run through a couple of notable games in this rivalry before we get to the trophy. So in 1959, it was known as Cannon's Halloween Run. So late in the game, between the number 1 LSU Tigers at the time, number 3 Ole Miss Rebels at the time. So again, this was in that prominent era. Yeah. LSU was trailing 3-0 late into the game. And then Billy Cannon returned a punt for 89 yards for a touchdown, and he broke 7 tackles in that run.
Nice. All right.
But the Rebels then, so that puts them up 7-3. And the Rebels then drove all the way down the field, but were stopped on the LSU 1 yard line as the game ended. So it literally went down to the last play on the 1, and they got stuffed.
Did they try to pass instead of hand the ball to Marshawn Lynch?
No, I think they tried to run, and LSU just wasn't having it. I don't even know if the forward pass was a thing then, right? 59.
Well, 59? Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
Ish, right?
It was. Yeah.
So the Rebels would get their revenge, though. However, they played each other again in the Sugar Bowl, and Ole Miss won 21-0, and were declared national champions by several polls that year. So It's kind of losing, the battle to win the war. But
Yeah, yeah.
heck of a game.
Might happen this year.
Yes.
These guys.
So this one's just more crazy in my eyes, sad, pathetic in many eyes. But 1971, Ole Miss defeated LSU 24-22, and that was the last major college football game between the two all-white squads. So in 1972 was the first time that both those schools fielded their first black players.
Wow.
72.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy
I
when you think about that, man.
I mean, I get
was,
it's like the deep south and stuff, but like, man.
you
Maybe it's us
ever watch the
Northerners.
show A Different World?
Mm-mm.
You ever watch that show? It was a spin-off of the Cosby Show. It came out in the late 80s, early 90s. I just started rewatching on HBO Max. It's good. It's about kids at historically black college in HBCU. It's a fictional school called Hillman University. The first season starred Lisa Bonet from the Cosby Show, but then she got pregnant. So Bill Cosby was like, well, I don't want.
Wait, did she get pregnant with Zoe Kravitz? Was
Yeah.
that?
Well,
That's
if
crazy.
that's her oldest child, then yeah, that's who she was pregnant with.
I think so, right? I think that was
Maybe, but
yeah.
it was her first child with Lenny Kravitz, and
Yeah.
Bill Cosby's like, Denise Huxtable can't be pregnant, like can't be a single mother, like that's because she was a good girl always on the Cosby show, so I don't want her to be a single mother. So
Really, what it was Cosby didn't get to drug
exactly. Yeah, I mean it's very suspect when you look back on it now. Like his exact words were, Lisa Bonet can be pregnant, but Denise Huxtable cannot be. So anyways, they like kind of refielded it. Like they just made two of the other characters, the prime characters.
Yeah.
But it's like, it's crazy watching that show. Cause it 89, 90. And I was actually thinking about that like, when they were talking about these issues, because it does touch a lot on like race issues and everything like that. And like when they talk about it, it's like that was like not like the context of these kids in college. Like when they were born, they would have been born into a world where there was like these schools were segregated, and like that's the crazy thing. Like I tried to like rationalize that to like, okay, like that would mean that like whenever I was in college, when I was born, like in this example, whenever I was in college, when we were born, there would have been segregated colleges. And that's the thing. Like when it comes to these issues, it's like, a lot of the pictures you see of like the race movement and stuff like that, it's all in black and white photos, which is intentional to make you feel like it was a long time ago. Like Martin Luther King was a long time ago. And
right.
But it wasn't. It really was not that long ago when you think about it. It's just, it's great. Like when you really think about it. Anyways, that's my tangent on racial equality, I guess. But so.
Yeah, no, it just kind of surprised me. And I guess if you really think about it, like I guess the North probably wasn't that much further off, maybe by a decade, but like I don't know, when it started to do the 70s, I was like, oh wow, like that's pretty crazy that it took really that long for them to allow that. But so that next year, 1972, is known as the night the clock stopped, and I always just love that because that's happened between Michigan State, where there's been clock operators having sketchy things, and I'm sure insert every in-state rival or just rival. I'm sure there's at one point in time a clock manager that was working for the home school, which was a total mistake at the time.
Not if you're the home school.
Right. So in this case, it was the number 6 Tigers. They trailed the unranked Rebels at the time. It was 16-10 with 4 seconds left to play. And the ball was on Ole Miss's 10-yard line. So after a short incompletion by the quarterback at the time, Burt Jones, at the goal line, the clock still showed 1 second remaining. And LSU then would win the game on a touchdown pass from Jones to the running back, Brad Davis. But with that 1 second left, Ole Miss fans say that like that should there shouldn't have been a 1 second left.
Right,
That
right.
incompletion
The
on that
clock
play
should have ended.
before
Yeah, yeah.
it should have ended. So that whole toss up or mix up had a it said the home clock advantage inspired a sign at LSU. And it read, "You are now entering LSU. Set your clocks back 4 seconds." So they kind of just like leaned into it. They were the home team.
Villains.
Yeah. So, all right. And then we can fast forward to 1989, which this also surprised me too. And I couldn't get an exact reason why this was the case. But 1989 marked the first time that these two teams played at in Oxford for Ole
Oh,
Miss since the 1960s. So for whatever reason, when Ole Miss hosted this game I mean, again, like before the 60s, it would like be very sprinkled, but for the most
yeah.
part, I can't remember when exactly it started, but for the most part, they played it in Jackson, Mississippi, in the capital.
Oh,
When they were the home team, when they went to LSU, they went to, Baton Rouge to
yeah.
their campus. And I think, yeah, I think like in this 1960s, like a little bit before that, I think like they did play in Oxford once or twice, but for the most part, from the 60s all the way to the 90s, when Ole Miss was home, they played in Jackson.
Oh,
I couldn't find why. I have no
oh.
idea. But
Did they have like a bigger stadium there, more prestigious?
I really don't know because like
Huh.
I'm pretty sure Ole Miss still had their current stadium that they
Yeah.
have now. Obviously, they've renovated over time, but no, I couldn't. I mean, that's probably my thought. I don't know if maybe it was a way to grant access to more people to the game. Like,
Could be more,
it's
maybe
in the
there's more
central of,
hotels or something
yeah,
like
it's
that. Yeah.
more in the center of the state. Not sure. It's not like Jackson's a huge city, so
Yeah.
I mean it's bigger than Oxford, but
Yeah.
I'm not sure. But all right, so that was 1989. So the week earlier, Rebel safety Chucky Mullins suffered a career-ending and ultimately fatal injury, making a tackle versus Vanderbilt. So
Damn.
the student body passed buckets around the stadium to a then record crowd of 42,700 at Vaught Hemingway Stadium. And it says that in excess of $150,000 was raised for the
Wow.
Mullins Fund. Yeah, it was pretty crazy, and the
Good for them.
Rebels nearly pulled off a comeback of 21 points. I mean,
Holy cow.
it was against a 1-6 Tigers team,
Oh,
but they only so they tried to come back from 21, but they had the ball intercepted in the end zone in the waning seconds. So they
damn.
lost 35-30.
Damn.
And then the last game here I'll talk about here is 2003. So Ole Miss entered the game undefeated 6-0 in the SEC conference play,
Mm-hmm.
while LSU entered the game with only a loss to Florida.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, at this point in time, the winner of the game would represent the SEC West in the SEC championship game.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And if Ole Miss won, they would just be the outright SEC West champion and make the SEC championship game for the first time. And if
Mm-hmm.
LSU won, both teams would be co-champions, but they would go to Atlanta because of the tiebreaker between the two
Okay.
schools.
Okay.
And LSU ended up winning that game 17-14. And that was played before an all-time crowd to ever watch an on-campus game in Ole Miss. So that broke the record of highest attendance at an Ole Miss game on campus in Oxford.
2003 was Saban coaching them.
Yes, yes, because they went on to win the SEC championship and the BCS. So it
Saban.
wouldn't have been less, right? Yeah, it wouldn't have been less. Yeah.
Yeah, 2000 to 2004. Yeah.
There you go. Then he just went, oh, I'm gonna then go to Alabama and resurrect that.
Well, he
program.
went to Miami first.
Oh, that's right.
Don't
He
forget
went to
about
fail
that.
in the
Don't
the
forget about
NFL.
his tenure with the Dolphins.
Oof. All right, Mike.
I'm sure he
Drum
will
roll
eventually
here.
forget about that, but yeah.
Like a soundboard. Do. tell me what your initial thoughts of this trophy is. Scroll down.
All right. No way. Okay. Oh, I see there's more. Okay. I see that they've adopted it since what the hell?
Tell
What in
us
the
what you see
world?
here. Tell us what you see
Oh my
here.
goodness. Wow, this has changed a lot over the years.
Quit
Huh?
looking ahead.
So well, all right. Sorry. I just started scrolling.
Is
I
this
see
is
that
this
there's
your first
more.
time on the pod?
Well,
This is why I
okay.
put page breaks so that
Gosh
you
darn
try
it.
not to scroll too far.
Okay. The first one looks like a
Damn.
sex toy. I'm not gonna lie. It looks like a sex toy. It's a little like tall pyramid. It's probably like a 6-inch tall wooden pyramid with a plaque that says
So a big.
LSU.
It's a big trophy then, right? 6 inches.
Yeah, exactly. It's huge. Biggest trophy I've ever seen. It honestly does look like a sex toy because it's like a little like tall wooden pyramid. Like it's a tall isosceles triangle with a base that says LSU Magnolia Bowl, and then at the top what looks like wooden foreskin, and coming out of the foreskin at the top is like a bronze magnolia. Yeah, it looks like a painful sex toy, albeit a sex toy.
Okay, so in 2008, like I had mentioned earlier, Ole Miss and LSU student governments met to better cement the legitimacy and the appeal of the rivalry. So they felt the best way to do that is to name it. So, like I had mentioned earlier, they named it the Magnolia Bowl because of Magnolia being the state flower for both LSU and Mississippi.
This might beat the Battle Line
Louisiana.
trophy for worst initial incarnation of a trophy.
So when that image was released, it was immediately ridiculed to look too much like a penis.
Yeah,
So
because it does.
that design was soon scrapped. So I don't know that ever got exchanged because it just looked too much like a penis.
Might got exchanged somewhere. So
it got exchanged to the next trophy. So would you like to describe what this next one looks like?
well, it's beefy, it's hefty. It just is a little rushed. Yeah, it's a really nice wooden base, and it's like all right, how do I even explain this? Like it looks like a oh gosh. I don't know how to even describe this. It's like a ramp almost. It's
Yeah.
is it a quadrilateral? Is a quadrilateral.
Yeah,
Okay.
so if you put it down, like, yeah, the nose down, it would be a ramp. So it's like an
Yeah.
upside, yeah,
It's like
ramp.
it's like a ramp sitting up. It basically looks like a big old ski slope, if you were.
Mhm.
So it has a big plaque on it. It's big too. I mean, it's sizable. It's probably like what 2 feet high or something like that.
Yeah.
And it's a tilted base, and then there's a large brass magnolia in the center of it, and a brass plaque that says LSU Ole Miss Magnolia Bowl.
And then a little plaque at the bottom that gives like the scores and everything too.
Oh, okay. I was wondering what
Yeah.
that was. And it looks like the
And
magnolia can be removed.
um no. So sort of. So this one, I mean, we can just call it what it is. It's boring.
It's
But
a
it
piece of
worked.
shit. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
It worked. So this was a trophy. For a while, this was up until Ole Miss upset the then number 6 LSU in 2013, and the celebration got so rowdy that the team accidentally popped the Magnolia blossom off of the dome.
Unintentionally removed. Okay.
Yes. So
Okay.
that was in 2013. So it lasted a solid like 5 or 6 years. And you can see a couple pictures. I think I got 2 pictures of it.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
shows of
One
the
of
broken.
the kids carrying it around the field with the magnolia off. And then
Yeah.
another one with the 2013.
Yeah.
That's Hugh Freeze
Freeze. Yeah. Is that
hugging
Hugh?
someone. Yeah.
And I mean, this was a sizable. I mean, it was a 2-person trophy, so at least they
Oh
had
yeah.
the size, the right.
Mhm.
So having broke it, Ole Miss took it upon themselves to redesign and rebuild the trophy to something that better represents the schools and would hold up to the violent movements of massive victorious football players, as someone described it. So the new
Nice.
trophy's design starts with Will Hopkins. He was the owner of the Green Door Company, which is a local business in
Oh,
Oxford that specializes in custom woodwork projects, many of which came from reclaimed wood from throughout the
okay.
South.
Okay.
So you can scroll down to what it looks like today. Um, and I'll just give a little explanation before you describe it. So the
Okay.
trophy itself is made of magnolia wood taken from a
Okay.
tree on Ole Miss's campus.
I like that.
And in
Oh.
addition, the base in which the magnolia flower is placed in was made of cypress from a warehouse in New Orleans. So you've got a trophy that
Oh.
comprised both of like the signature woods from each state. So why don't you tell us
It,
what we're looking at
so
here?
it's basically a big L. So there's a live wood base and then a live wood I guess backboard,
Mhm.
right? So it's a big L. And then there's three small wooden steps there made of cypress. It's the wood for the base for the L is live edge, right? It's a funky live edge, like it has like a knob on the base. And then the cypress steps are kind of neat. Then they did the wood burning etching, very it is like Magnolia Farms, like cursive style of like Magnolia Bowl. Then they also etched in Ole Miss and LSU. This is like the fire burned etching.
Mhm.
And then they put a magnolia flower in these steps at the base. Um, and yeah, it who is I was gonna say because there's a babe in this one photograph. I didn't know if it was Leanne Tui or anyone. It I don't. Is that Leanne Tui,
I have no idea.
the Blind Side mom? No, I don't think so.
Oh, maybe. I don't know. I only know
You
what's her
do
name.
have a picture of the LSU players celebrating, and it's Coach O and his now ex-wife. So, hmm.
Hmm. Yeah. Why don't you give us a size here? So that's what. So it's pretty
Oh yeah,
sizable. What
yeah.
do you
So
think? Like
gosh, I mean, so again, it
two and a
takes two
half,
players to
3
lift it.
foot?
I'd say it's probably 2.5, 3 feet. It's actually it's probably 3 feet tall. Yeah,
Yeah, two and a half on the bottom, 3 on the top. Maybe it's big. It's girthy.
yeah.
It
It
takes.
might be 3 and 3. Well, because the
Yeah.
thing is, it's next to these football players' heads, and you have to remember how and it's Coach O's head too, and like they look like normal sized heads next to this thing, so it's
Right.
probably freaking huge. Oh yeah, it's got because now with the woman, it's definitely 3 feet tall. Because if
Yeah. As I
you
say, if
assume
you look at
she's
her,
5 foot,
yeah,
yeah. So yeah,
it's pretty.
that's
It's pretty big.
yeah,
So the creator described his design by saying, "I started with a live edge. I didn't know what the hell that was, so I'm glad that you know. That's why
Mhm.
you're the trophy describer here,
Yeah, buddy.
um, which is a new look in furniture. And just so the listeners know, by live edge we mean that the natural look of it is kept, so the corners aren't or the edges aren't squared off or even. You leave it live, so it kind of just looks like a piece of wood,
EJ,
essentially.
we have pretty distinguished listeners. I think they know what a live edge is.
Okay, just letting
Give them
people
I'm
know.
gonna give them that
I
benefit
didn't
of the
know.
doubt. Not everyone's uncultured swine like you, so
Well, for the uncultured swine that are listeners, now you know. So let's see here. Yeah, so you had pointed out like there's a knot that was left in it as well. So it's another
yeah.
example of that. And so they took a brass flower. The flower is made of brass. They took a brass flower and painted it to look like a magnolia.
Oh, really? I thought
Yeah,
that was just a live magnolia.
no,
Okay.
so no, because that wouldn't hold up to celebrations
Yeah, well, but if they replaced it, every
every
year, that
time.
would be. I mean,
Sure. So both schools student bodies had to approve the design, and they both did, and luckily they did because I think they got to a much better spot than their initial penis shaped trophy that they
couldn't get much worse.
had. But that's it. That's gonna do
You
it.
know what we should do? You know what we should do?
What?
We should do a at the end of the season, maybe a Christmas time episode. We can have some
Ooh, a
eggnog.
holiday special.
Yeah, I think this would be a good holiday special. We can talk about bowl games, and I mean, I'll be really tired. Bobby on paternity leave, so it's all good. We can. we should rank. We should do a bracket like we did last time for the trophies. So separate
Yes.
from our SEC bracket, we should do a bracket from season 1, season 2 of the initial versions of the trophy, but by worst. So the winner's the worst looking original trophy. So
Okay.
the Battle Line trophy, this motherfucker, like there are plenty that we can throw in there.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember some of the early Big Ten ones. There was a couple
Oh
ones
yeah.
that were pretty
Well,
bad.
the Cyhawk,
Yeah, the Psylocke was terrible.
the no, yeah. I mean that it doesn't get much worse than that. So,
Yeah.
and not may not even like the initial version, but like the the Cyhawk Corn Kid is
Yeah,
like that's
yeah,
the one I'm
yeah.
thinking of.
The
So
one that went to the fair and everyone went absolutely not, and they're like, okay, we'll do something different then.
yeah.
JK.
Previous because the initial version of the Cyhawk was cool. It was like
Yeah,
the bowling alley trophy. I'm talking the
right.
Corn Kid trophy.
No, yeah, yeah. Well, once they got their corporate sponsor and they ruined it.
Yeah. So previous iterations of the trophy is what I want to do. Yeah.
All right, I like that
It
idea.
it might be a shorter bracket, but I think it'll be a good one. So
I agree. Okay, why don't we get to our rankings here? So just a reminder, we do a ranking on a scale from 1 to 5 for looks of the trophy, history of the rivalry, the overall competitiveness of the rivalry, and then whether we put this in a bottom, middle, or top tier. So what do you think, Mike?
so for the looks of the trophy, I think it's a 4. I like the originality of it, like I don't know if this is a trophy that will stand the test of time. It's pretty new. They might, choose to iterate on it again, but it's different. We don't see a lot of them that are like just straight up wood. So I like that. I think that's pretty cool. It's big, it's sizable. I like the Magnolia in the center. Like I said, I thought it was real, so that's pretty cool. The history of the trophy. So I like the thought of the cypress and then the magnolia tree. Like I think that's neat. But it's not an old trophy. The original version was booty. The other version broke. So like I do appreciate the thought that they put into this one, but like and for that, like for this current era, well, it's like thought. All right, so I'm gonna say a 2. Like actually 1.5. 1.5. Like and that's just like it would be a 0 if it was the first iteration or even the second iteration. The third one at least had some thought put into it.
Yeah.
The rivalry itself is obviously very heated, very intense. But I don't think that either of these teams, so like this is the most like hated rivalry on their schedule. I mean, for
I can get.
LSU, I know they're looking at Bama. I know they're looking probably like even cross conference
Yeah.
and with Ole Miss too. So I don't think it's the most hated. So I'm gonna say it's a 3.5. They definitely hate each other, but I don't think it's like it's the number one for them. And competitiveness, this LSU did suck ass for a while. Or I'm sorry, Ole Miss sucked ass for a while. But LSU is always good. They were strong in the 50s. I'm gonna say it's a 4. And then overall, it's gonna just sneak into the mid tier for me.
Okay.
Just sneak on in there.
Just sneak on.
Yeah.
Oof. Okay.
Just sneak on there.
So because you missed last week too, you still haven't put anyone in the top tier, right? You haven't found anyone that fits your fancy. I
No.
last year with the McCullough Trophy was the first time I put someone in my top tier.
I really did like the McCullough Trophy. I mean, I kind
I
of
thought you
am
would.
sad I missed that one.
Yeah.
I actually need to go back and update the rankings for that one. But yeah, I mean, McCullough Trophy was rock steady. I mean, that's what I would say the rivalry is. When you always ask me, what do you think this trophy looks like? I would say, a Native American and a Gator wrestling. And
Right.
that does it. So.
All right. So for looks for me, it's a 4.5. I mean, this checks almost every box for me. It's girthy, it's unique, it's well thought out. it has something to do, like it has a tie-in for both schools.
Yep.
Like I said, it looks different, it's huge, and it just, like I said, almost every box. I can't give it a
Yeah.
5, but we'll go 4.5. The history of it. So I put this at like a 3, and it's so I appreciate that
Oh,
the student bodies wanted to name this something and
yeah.
also wanted to put a trophy in it. I
That's
love
true.
I love the iterations of it. So I love that there are I actually like when things are multiple. Like I like that they failed that first time miserably. And
Yeah.
then I'm really happy they broke the second one. The second one was just awful. I would have taken the phallic one over the second one, really. Like that
Yeah,
second
it
one
was
was
lazy. The second one was
boring.
lazy. Yeah.
So because of that, but I agree, there isn't like it's not super old, and it doesn't have like this fun like the Big Ten. I don't know if it's maybe because we just like started off so spoiled with the Big Ten and how some
Yeah.
of these crazy histories on how they got to a current trophy. Or the reason why they started it, but I'd say this one's solid. Like it's just like a nothing terrible, nothing spectacular.
Yeah.
The rivalry itself, I give it a 3 as well, for same reasons. Like I think it is a good rivalry, but they're not each other's top rivals.
Hmm.
But they're still solid secondary ones, right? So
Yeah.
you could argue across many different rivalries, like I would say like Michigan State. I mean, Michigan will argue whether or not Ohio State's the real rival, but at least Michigan State, Ohio State, that's like there's a solid 2 teams, right? And then Michigan
Hmm.
State, you can look at like Penn State is another solid, or Notre Dame,
Yeah.
before the Notre Dame bitched out and doesn't play the Big Ten. It was, I feel like it's in the same vein as that, right? Where it's still a rivalry that gets the fan bases going, but it's not the primary one for either school. And then competitiveness, maybe this is a little, I mean, you put it a little higher than me. I'm going to put 2.5, 2.5, just
Hmm.
because Ole Miss hasn't been very good recently. And LSU has, I think it was like a 20 plus. So it's not the worst. It's almost even, right? Where,
Yeah.
again, like we've seen really lopsided rivalries, um, even if some of that's stemming from old. But I don't know. I just feel like because in modern day, Ole Miss hasn't been very good, and LSU has been competing for national championships.
Yeah.
It's just a smidge, just a smidge under a yard for me there. So I'm gonna say this is a solid middle, almost pushing to a top, just because
Oh,
and I think it's because I love the look of it. I'm maybe ignoring the other aspects of it, but
yeah. Yeah.
it's a middle. Like I'm not gonna say middle top, but I'm just saying it's
Yeah.
very
Yeah.
solidly in the middle for me. But I'm
Okay.
more on like the high end of the middle. Uh,
Okay. Okay. Maybe I'm too harsh this evening, but
maybe.
you did honestly. I bumped my my history score up a half point to it too,
Okay.
based on your because I think that the argument that you made around the kids wanting a trophy and a name for it, that kind of I didn't take that into account, and I should have. So I'm gonna bump it up a little bit. You
Yeah,
swayed me.
it's not as great as a couple of bowling alley friends, or when it's like people that are completely, non-associated with the schools. I mean, they were alumni, but like not
Yeah.
currently and that time associated. Those are your highs. But I thought it was a pretty solid, history there.
Who won
Um,
that? Who won our bracket last year? Was it
Little Brown Jug,
it should have
LBJ.
been it should have been the Cyhawk. I mean, we go
I
back
think
to
it
that.
was I think it was Little Brown Jug versus my winner in my eyes, Floyd, my
Floyd.
my beautiful big pig.
Yeah. I think I wish I could go back and redo that. I think about the Cyhawk so much. So
I just
that's such a good trophy.
I think we need to figure out a way to get to some of these places and get some pictures and see some of these guys.
Yeah,
I want I
Cyhawk would
want
be dope.
I
Going to
want
the
to see
Iowa
some of these.
State Fair would be yeah.
Okay, so this game is actually going to be played this weekend. So we got a nice little preview here of the Magnolia Trophy. So number 7, Ole Miss, who is undefeated, 7-0, are going to Death Valley. I guess it depends on which one you think is the real Death Valley, but
Please,
going to
please,
LSU, who are 5-2.
please.
So is as much as we make fun of Kelly, what's his first name? I don't know. It's not
Brian.
Chip. Brian. I was
Brian.
gonna say Jim. Oh, it's just so many Kellys. So Brian Kelly and his family. I mean, this in my eyes is potentially trouble for Ole Miss because as of right now, the line is they are underdog.
What? Yeah,
LSU is
1.5. LSU's laying 1.5.
right. So you're telling me the number 7 undefeated school traveling to not one of LSU's best teams. They're sneaky 5-2.
Lane train, choo choo.
Maybe I don't know. If I were to tell you to lean a certain way, it's probably LSU. This game is 3:30, so it's not a night game. It's 3:30 on CBS. But Ole Miss can't throw the ball. Like Jackson Dart is not a great thrower. I'm surprised that he's really what Lane settled with. But they have a really,
I
really
think
good run
he's what
game.
he's got, you know.
Right. Yeah. So they have a really great running game, and that's what does it for them. LSU has the Arizona State transfer Jaden Daniels, who's playing pretty well for them. They have Butte. Butte, is that his name? Who's going to be
Sure.
top 15 at Raj. They have players at LSU, even though they, Coach O kind of ran them to the ground. They don't hurt for prospects. I think Ole Miss could be in some trouble. What are your thoughts? I think you're the other time. You love Ole Miss. You love those
I'm
battle
not
blues.
I'm not on the I'm not subscribing to the Vin Diesel method family here. I'm all about yeah, fuck them. Fuck LSU. I mean, there's gonna come a day where Lane Kiffin's gonna be the head coach of Alabama. I'm telling you, it's gonna happen.
After all of the trash talk he's given since he's left, do you think people are going to take him back?
Yeah, dude. I think it comes. The Alabama fan base is ready for it. I don't think it's trash talk. I think he respects the hell out of Saban. You know, I think that like he's not an idiot. He understands that he is where he is because Nick Saban took a chance on him. I think that there's a ton of respect there, and I think that he is going to become the head coach at Alabama one day. Whether or not that will be a successful tenure is still yet to be seen. But yeah, dude. You're right. I think that LSU has more raw talent than Ole Miss right now, but I also think that Ole Miss is better coached than LSU is, which isn't a far leap to take, but
I will just say I don't as
how they
much
play for that corny ass motherfucker.
I will say as corny and as not great of a human being as he is, him at Notre Dame was successful, right?
He
It
killed
just
a kid.
was. It
People forget.
was successful, and this particular LSU team, while again, like I know that he was made some dumbass comments at the beginning of the year, they're a very quiet 5-2, and then being at home, that just if this was in Oxford, it'd be this spread would not be what it is. But the fact that it's 1.5 tells you what Vegas thinks.
They're wrong every week. Google Brian Kelly killed a kid and see what happens.
My Brian Kelly, like, I don't think I hate him, but just like, I think he's a
I'll go
joke.
that far.
Aside,
That's true. I guess I don't
think
hate him. I don't nothing him either.
no,
He's a dork.
yeah. And not from stories of some very famous NFL coaches, like probably genuinely not like a nice guy. Like, not to say he has scandalous, but just like maybe a bit of a jerk
Well,
or full
you
of
don't got to
himself.
put your fingers in buttholes of teenagers in Cincinnati to be a bad guy. He killed a kid.
Right. So yeah, Mike's leaning or might be all on Ole Miss.
I'm not. I don't know. I mean,
I'm probably leaning LSU. If you had to tell me to pick, we'll see where that spread goes throughout the week once money starts coming in. But
yeah, if you had to tell me to pick, I would just if it stays where it is, I would just take the value of LSU or Ole Miss money line. I mean, get a couple extra points because I don't think it's going to come down to a 1.5 game. You know, so
no, I don't either. But
so
I will say this could be if you're looking, if Ole Miss is really trying to compete in the SEC West, I feel like this could be a trap because they haven't played Alabama yet. They obviously haven't played Mississippi State yet. I don't even know if they've played A&M yet. So I feel like this is, you have all these things stacked in this final end of the season for them, and this might be one that they're kind of like not worried about, and maybe they should be.
I don't know.
Because
Oh
I think
boy, it's a murderer's row.
I'll say what's after this.
Oh, poor old Miss, poor Lane. So they got this. Then they go to College Station and play the cult that is A&M. 3-3, by the way. Fuck you, Jimbo. Hope you enjoy all that money you paid for those recruits. Then they have Alabama at home. I don't like that. Then they have that line is live right now, by the way. You can put money on Alabama minus 11.5 at Ole Miss. Don't do it. Ole Miss at Arkansas, and then they got the Egg Bowl at home.
Okay. Oof. So, yeah, I mean Arkansas is another one that you circle as trouble.
Sam Pittman's.
They've had a couple of heartbreaks, and Jefferson got hurt in that one game, but they came back and stomped whoever they played this week or last week. So I don't know. It should be a good game regardless. I don't think either team's going to blow. Maybe BYU, this could be wrong.
Kick the shit out of them.
Yeah, that's what it was. BYU.
BYU stinks, but yeah.
So we'll see. But this game is on CBS at 3:30. I looked at the slate, and honestly, it's not one of the better ones. So this might be a game you guys really might want to catch. Actually, it might be one of the better games, especially.
What we got here? Let's tell the people what to watch.
Yeah, I looked at it briefly, and I was kind of underwhelmed, to be honest.
It's UCLA Oregon's also at 3:30. Oklahoma State and Texas is at 3:30. So those are two games I'd rather watch than this one.
Sorry, so the noon slot so the noon slate
sucks.
Is Syracuse at Clemson. So that's probably nothing anyone's really interested. I mean, it's if this was in Syracuse, I think it would be different. But in Death Valley, Clemson, they're favored by.
Yeah, that's at noon.
Yeah, that's I know, but I'm just saying, like, if I'm looking at Syracuse, are they really big boys to beat Clemson?
Yeah,
I think maybe right. Like if it was in Syracuse, I would be a little bit more intrigued and think that they have a real shot. I mean, they might cover, but like to actually win, I don't know. But yeah, the 3:30 is the good part of this,
and that's it. I mean, when you're done at 3:30.
I mean, Bama, Mississippi State.
Right. Oh yeah, Bama, Mississippi State. But yeah, well, I mean, obviously, I'll be watching that. TCU, Kansas State. There's nothing good.
I was gonna say TCU, Kansas State, though. Even though they're both ranked, that might be like for the diehards still.
Great night games though. 10:30, Washington, Cal, and San Diego State, Nevada. Oh, put those on and go to sleep, my friends. Oh, yeah,
because you're gonna fall asleep. Cal's terrible. They just lost to Colorado.
Yeah, it
had nothing to do with you.
What did I say? Did I say to turn those on and stay up? No, turn them on and go to sleep, dude.
You really set that up as like, yes, we got like the night slate. Like I'm expecting like some. That's usually where they stick USC.
That's what I like. Give me a game, a Pac-12 game that like.
You can just bet on and wake up in the morning to see if you won.
Wake up at 2 a.m. See what happens.
So, yeah, right. When you're taking your piss, like, did I win any money? What's my account look like?
No, I'm gonna be asleep on the couch. Yeah, no, my account's gonna look terrible. It's all good. It's all right. Let's turn on Lord of the Rings extended cut. Up till 5.
No, for sure. So yeah, so check it out. We'll definitely be checking it out, and we're going to be together again. So that'll do it for us this week. Follow us on Instagram at whiskers.whiskies, and please subscribe to our YouTube channel. And obviously, don't forget to do our Saturday morning bets. We have a new leader, Nathan, and Mike and I really don't want to give any of you swag, but you can still, even though there's 5 weeks left, if you're really good at this, you can beat us.
I mean, Nathan came from behind very quickly. He just, don't they all? Ayo. Get it? Get it?
we got it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so please join us, or if you don't want to participate in our competition, we're giving 6 to 7 people's perspectives on the bets for that weekend. So if you're looking for a couple of tips, or maybe to either verify, or in my case, fade me, yeah, you can check out our post here to see what we're thinking for the weekend. So join us next week for a very special episode, a Whiskers and Whiskeys special presentation, when we talk about the world's largest outdoor cocktail party.
Yee.
For Mike, I'm EJ. Always remember, too much of anything is bad, but too much good whiskey is barely enough.
Cheers, boys.